Hey, what's up, everybody? Chad Calek here, and welcome back to the In a Credit Room podcast for episode number 165, which we are going to discuss a lot that has been going on in the world of ufology. But first, I just want to say thank you all for all the messages over the last week or so. As I mentioned in the last podcast, I did suffer an injury when I was filming Harbingers. The only reason I'm not sharing it with you is because it does relate to the film, and I want you guys to actually just see what happened because it is incredibly bizarre. But the good news is I have been listening to the doctors. I have been absolutely taking care of myself, and I feel really good, especially today, which is why I'm finally hopping back on here to jump back into the world of podcasts. But I also wanted to thank you guys for the different messages about different forms of content. I know some of you guys prefer the stuff on ghosts. Some of you guys prefer the stories and the experiences about Sir No Face and updates as to what is going on there. Some of you guys love the stories about when I was touring with my band, the high school stuff with Laura. Just keep in mind, I like to rotate content just because when I started this podcast, as it says, it is a storyteller's podcast. The idea was that I just wanted to share all kinds of stories with you, not only in the past, but recent stories. And I also want to discuss various things that are going on in the world. For example, the next podcast that's coming is going to be about Taylor Hawkins. I had an experience with Taylor that I want to share, but I also want to discuss that whole world and how these things happen. With Taylor obviously overdosing on multiple medications, and just that whole world it's important to me to discuss because I've lost so many friends to addiction, and I've also had my own battles, and it's just it's never not the right time to discuss something like that. So that's coming next. And I think you guys will really enjoy that episode because there's a lot of storytelling and a lot of really interesting experiences that I've had over the years with people who have battled through addiction. But just keep in mind that if you want to hear, paranormal stuff, it's always right around the corner. I love just telling stories, period. And I love that you guys take the time to actually listen to my stories. So thank you all for the messages. Thank you all for the love and the support. I'm doing great. Like I said, I feel great. And we have quite a podcast here for you today, which I first want to start out with the story that I'm going to tell you. And then afterwards, I'll explain to you why it's relevant as to what is going on right now in the world of ufology. Because there is some really sketchy stuff going on right now that I want to kind of direct your attention to. But first off, and this is super weird, guys. Years ago, Justin called me and we were discussing doing events at different places, ghost hunting events. And by the way, now that I'm done with Harbingers, we will have some dates coming out the next 2 weeks for events this year. We usually do about 5 a year, and we're planning on doing that many, if not more, this year. So hang tight. They are coming. But anyways, I was talking to Justin, and I said I really just want to do new places, and I want to really focus on that because it just seems like the same locations get overused by multiple groups that hold events, which I fully support all groups holding events. I think it's nothing but a win-win for everybody when paranormal teams get out in the community and host paranormal events. So Justin called me back and he said, "Hey man, you're not going to believe what I have for you." And he told me about this location that was on Arsenal Island in Rock Island, Illinois. Arsenal Island is the largest government facility for making basically not only weaponry but bullets, like the actual bullets for the guns that we use in the military. And again, they also test certain weaponry there. And he said there's a building on Arsenal Island called Quarters 1. Next to the White House, it's the second largest, basically, home that is owned by the U.S. government. And it is reportedly haunted. And I was like, okay, this sounds super dope. And he was like, I can get us access to it. And he explained how. And I don't want to say how on this podcast. And he's never publicly said how. But basically, we knew that we could get access to it. And we knew that in order to pull this off, we would have to time it the right way. We'd have to do exactly what this person said who got us access to it. And we would have to, basically, put the advertisements out right before the event. And because we just didn't want to risk anybody shutting it down. And we knew that it would most definitely sell out quickly, and it did. I mean, it sold out in, like a couple days. Tickets were gone, and it was the largest event we've ever done. We did 75 people at that event. Just so you guys know, our events are known for intentionally having usually 30 or less people, just because when it comes to ghost hunting, it's just very, very hard to do a ghost hunt with a ton of people. And that's kind of our niche in the ghost hunting world for events, is that we focus on intentionally doing events between 10 and like 30 people. Well, what we wanted to do with this one, because we knew this was such a unique opportunity to investigate this quarters one, we were basically going to combine two events into one. And we were going to separate our audience, 35 people, and we would, host it like that. I was super nervous about it just because we've never done an event that big, but I also knew, again, not only was it a government facility, it was a military facility. Now, this person that Justin had gained access to this location from, he had given me a link to a video that had basically demonstrated everything that they do on Arsenal Island. And that video had all kinds of footage of them making weaponry and making bullets and testing certain guns and ammunition. I'm not a gun guy, so I don't really know, all the names of the bullets or the guns or anything. But it also had aerial footage of Arsenal Island. Really cool video. Well, I used footage in this video in the promotional trailer for the event. And again, we were going to time this perfectly where that trailer was going to go up like 4 days before the event, because we knew it would sell out fast, and we just wanted to time it right where it would be difficult to stop it once it was in motion. So this is where things get really crazy. So I made this promotional trailer, and it was super dope. I mean, it was one of my favorite ones that I've ever made. And I sent it over to Justin. He was like, yeah, dude, this is super cool. And he sent it to his contact and said, hey, this is what we're going to put up. Can you clear this and, say if it's cool or not? And he was like, yeah, man, this is really awesome. I dig it. Hopefully, by the time someone even notices it, the event's already over and we're gone, moving on. Now, we didn't think that they would shut it down per se, just because, again, we really marketed it as a historical tour / ghost hunt. So it was really, and it was, the event itself was awesome. It was all about the history of the place, the past presidents that have stayed in quarters one, which it was just a mind-blowing place and location and history. But just in case they would, want to shut it down, like I said, we put this marketing in play where it would all unfold quickly. So we get the video back, or I get the video back, and it's been approved by our inside guy. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to put it up on YouTube. And I upload it. I hit public and post it. Literally walk to the kitchen, get a glass of water. And Justin called me back, and he's like, hey, dude, we got to take that trailer down. And the trailer is maybe 40 seconds. And I'm like, why? And he goes, I just got a call from Langley, like the Pentagon. I'm like, shut up. And he's like, no, dude, I'm dead serious. I just got a call from the Pentagon. They said they had reviewed the video, and they were going over right now the actual spots that we're, not allowed to use and we have to take out. And I'm like, why? Of what? He was like, I guess there's footage in there that's proprietary. They own it and they don't want it out there. And basically they said that it's stuff that just can't be seen because of potential terrorist acts and all this stuff, like aerial footage, footage inside the facilities, the show like where certain doors were and where certain things were located. I'm like, hold on. They called you that quickly. Like, I honestly thought Justin was fucking with me. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And he's like, dude, he was like, I am not kidding with you, man. This is freaky. I'm like, oh my God. So as I'm on the phone with him, he says, oh, dude, they're on the other line right now. This is the Pentagon. And he's not kidding. I'm like, oh my God. He's like, all right, dude, I'll call you back. And he switches over and he talks to him. So I wait like 4 or 5 minutes and Justin calls me back. And he says, okay, man, I have a list, and it was every single shot in the promotional trailer that they wanted gone, like time coded. That they were like, you can't use this, you can't use this, you can't use this, you can't use this. I'm like, dude, this is crazy. Like crazy. And I'm like, is somebody like, messing with you? Or do you have, he's like, no, dude, the call is coming from Langley. He gave me his name, his rank, like all this stuff. I'm like, dude, this is wild. I'm like, well, tell him, yeah, dude, we're not, trying to give away any like military secrets. We'll definitely, chop this footage out and just replace it with something generic. And he said, well, they're having a discussion right now as to whether or not this is an event that would be allowed by the Pentagon. I'm like, oh no, man, no, because the second I put this up, I mean, we started getting emails from everybody super excited about it because we have an email list and all that stuff that it goes right to. And I'm like, no, do not shut this down. This would be so epic, And he's like, well, they're having a conversation right now about it. And I'm like, okay, well, let me, I guess, wait to hear what they say before I edit anything because, if we're not going to have the event, then let's just take the whole thing down, period. So literally like maybe 10 minutes goes by and Justin calls me back and he says, I just spoke to him. They wanted to know how the event was being ran. What was the, purpose of it? And I said, so what'd you tell him? He said, yeah, no, I told him. I mean, it's about the history of the place and with the focus on, the paranormal side in quarters 1. And I'm like, okay, so let's just wait and see, I guess, what they have to say. Maybe, like I said, 10, 20 minutes or so later, they called back and they said they had discussed it and they would allow the event to move forward if we immediately, I shouldn't say if, because they weren't like saying, hey, do you think maybe you can cut this footage out? They were saying, according to Justin, they were saying, you will cut this footage out. You will get rid of this footage right now. And I was like, okay, yeah, no problem. So they basically gave us their blessing after we cut out the footage they didn't want us to use. And the event went off as planned. But there were some interesting things to it. They said that everybody, on the island that was going to be working at the event had to submit, I think it was like 2 or 3 forms of ID and submit to a background check. And that we all had to have these printout badges that we had to keep with us at all times. And there were certain places we couldn't go. And they're pretty much saying, listen, don't wander off. If you or your guests are found somewhere they're not supposed to be, they're going to get shot, like period. Like this is no joke. This is a very real active facility and, don't play basically. And I was like, dude, this is getting so intense. But to make a long story short, the event went off and it was amazing. It was one of the craziest, wildest events that we had ever done. The ghost hunt itself got a little out of control and it made me realize why I just don't like doing events with too many people. But I wanted as many people as possible to enjoy this experience because I knew how we got access to it, and I knew nobody else was going to be able to go here. No way. Again, I don't want to give up the Justin's trade secret here and how he pulled it off, but I just knew there was no way that anybody is going to have access like we're going to have to this place. Now, I know there's a local group there that does like a walking history tour of the paranormal, but we had it set up like, here's the building, here's quarters one, here's the keys, have fun with your guests. And they would leave and we would just have full access to the place. So I knew it was going to be special. And it was. But again, the one thing that I wish is that I wish we would have kind of minimized the amount of people overall that we let in, because again, it just when it gets really crowded, it's hard to do ghost hunts. And that is why, since that event, we've never done an event that's over 40 people. Rarely will we exceed 30. But anyways, I wanted to tell you this story because I'm still blown away when I think back to how quickly that phone call came from the moment I posted the video. I mean, it literally must have posted, and within 10 seconds, somebody must have watched it and known right away this isn't going to fly, and called like a minute after watching it. I mean, it must have gone down that quick, because it was just at most 2-3 minutes after I posted it when they called. It just shows you, when it comes to the industrial military complex, man, they do not play. They do not play. You know, they know what's going on. They are watching. They know far more than I thought, for sure. Now, the reason I bring this up is because I am becoming more and more skeptical of our good friend Jeremy Corbell. And I say that sarcastically. I don't know Jeremy, but if you don't know who Jeremy is, he is the guy that works with, George Knapp, and is the point man for releasing all these government UFO videos. And he is although he would tell you that he's an independent filmmaker working on his own with George Knapp and the entire group of people that at one point surrounded Mr. Blink-182, Tom DeLonge, who apparently are no longer involved with Tom DeLonge, or at least you never hear anything about Tom DeLonge working with any of these guys, Mellon, Hal Puthoff, any of those dudes, the To the Stars Academy. But if you remember, when this whole thing started, Tom DeLonge had this big on-stage announcement where he lined up, everybody that was supporting him, all the big alphabet, FBI, CIA, DOD, like all those guys. And he made this announcement that they were going to build a UFO and that they were launching this To the Stars Academy, which was going to release UFO footage and kind of, usher in, disclosure, basically. And then suddenly, right in front of our eyes, Tom DeLonge disappears. And, we have this guy, Luis Alzando, who is now basically delivering information on behalf of To the Stars, Tom DeLonge, that whole team. But the public point man now becomes Jeremy Corbell. Jeremy is an independent filmmaker. And to his credit, he is a talented filmmaker. And if you go back and listen to any of my past podcasts about Corbell, I say not only is he a talented filmmaker, what he is more than anything else is he is a great, great director of photography. He does incredible visuals. He clearly understands cameras and lenses. He's also a true independent filmmaker like myself, which means that he pretty much does everything. In his case, according to him, he literally does everything, meaning that, for example, I work obviously with a crew. I have a director of photography. The reason I have a director of photography is because it's very hard for me to focus on emotion and people and then also the visual picture. So what I will do is explain to my DP what I want the shot to look like, and then I walk away and I now turn my focus to the person in the shot. And 99% of the time, you're seeing a first take. In my films, you're seeing take number one, because that is where the honesty comes from. The first time you ask a person a question, their first response is generally the most authentic. Jeremy, if you watch his films, he clearly spends a lot of time staging his shots, and I don't say that in any kind of bad way. I say it in a good way. I mean, it's a stylistic choice, right? Like some people absolutely, love super high-end looking production. With films like Alex Gibney, guys like that who are incredible. And then there's some people who love super, super, raw filmmaking, which is more my style. Corbell is more like, really polished high-end production, which he's very good at. And I bring this up for a reason, and I'll come back to this. But as I said, what was really weird, and I pointed this out multiple times, and when I say pointed out, I'm not accusing, I'm questioning. I'm saying, why is it that every single time there's a video from the, quote, government, it's not being delivered to us by the government. It's being delivered to us by Jeremy Corbell. And he's been asked this before, and he always has this slick answer that makes no sense, where he's like, because of my incredible personality, and I'm able to get people to trust me, and I'm just very, good at what I do. And it's the same thing that Tom DeLonge said when people were saying, how did you get all these people involved? How did you meet all these people? It's because of my personality, and I'm just very honest with people. And to me, it's just like, man, you guys are drunk on your own egos, man, because these people aren't working for you. Essentially, you're working for them, and you don't know it. Like Tom DeLonge thought, wow, all these people have, come to my side to help me understand this UFO stuff and deliver it to the public, not realizing that, they didn't come to your side, all at once out of the blue. These are all military guys. They were ordered to. And that's why they're all, came to your side, because they've tricked you into thinking that they're all working for you when you're working for them. And that's exactly, I think, what happened with Tom DeLonge. So when it comes to Jeremy Corbell, there was never an answer given that made any sense as to why are you the guy that delivers, quote, government footage of UAPs, that they call them now, or UFOs. Why are you the point man that delivers this to the public? Why are we not seeing somebody from the Department of Defense, come out on a podium and say, here's the footage of this. This is the event that happened that night. I mean, if you look at it, we've yet to see like an actual member of an active DOD member come out and say this is what's going on. We always see Corbell. And man, every time there is a message that the government wants to drive home about UFOs, who do we see on the news? Jeremy Corbell. Over and over and over and over again. And I'm sitting here going, man, if you're not working for the government, that would blow my mind. Most recently, a week ago, after a long kind of hiatus where we didn't hear much from the government, out of the blue, the Pentagon releases 1,500 formerly classified documents on UFO encounters. And this comes through, we're led to believe that this came through the publication, The Sun. And it was just, through a Freedom of Information request. That's it. That's all they had to do, is write a Freedom of Information request over the course of, several years and go through the chains. And then the government just decided, well, guys, The Sun filed a Freedom of Information request. I guess we have to release these 1,500 documents that were formerly classified. I mean, they did a Freedom of Information request, guys. We just got to release. I mean, does anybody believe that? That the Pentagon is sitting around going, well, guys, if someone files a Freedom of Information request, we have to give up our classified documents. That is ridiculous. That is ridiculous to think that that is going on. But basically, when these things come out, they have to have a chain of custody, right? They have to say, somebody has to say where it came from. So it's supposedly legit. So you get the Sun to say, yes, here's the documents, here's a piece of paper that says we are giving you these 1,500 documents of previously classified material because you filed that Freedom of Information request, so here it is. And the next thing you know, guess who's back on TV driving the narrative? Mr. Jeremy Corbell. And this time, it is the fear machine in full swing. In full swing.
Well, thousands of previously classified documents regarding UFOs have now been released to the public. And some of the stories include alien abductions, electrical paralysis, and even sexual encounters.
Yeah, just some bizarre stuff. Fox 35's William Lajeunesse has the shocking details from this 1,500-page report.
Pilots tracking unidentified objects, balls of light suspended over the ocean, UFOs chasing warships, all part of a growing body of sightings of UAPs or unidentified aerial phenomena.
Oh my gosh, they're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west.
Now comes something even more explosive, a 1,500-page Pentagon report of previously classified documents cataloging accounts from witnesses and victims claiming radiation burns, brain damage, even paralysis after close encounters with UAPs.
This is the most haunting of all the reports from my perspective, because it shows immunological deficiency. It shows altering human DNA. It shows degradation on a cellular level.
Prepared in 2010 by the Pentagon's secret Advanced Aerospace Weapons Program, the report was released only after a Freedom of Information request. It found sufficient incidents, accidents have been accurately reported, and medical data acquired as to support a hypothesis that some advanced systems are already deployed and opaque to full U.S. understandings.
This is from within the documents themselves.
The report says humans have been injured from exposure to UFOs, from abductions and perceived time loss to sexual encounters and unexplained pregnancies.
We're talking about an area where there is intervention with the human being on such a level that it's beyond just negative health effects. Some of this stuff is really bizarre.
Aliens are getting our women pregnant, for God's sakes, and people have been getting sick, and there's been cellular change. Like, it literally reads like a nightmare, like a Hollywood nightmare. Like, all these documents, I mean, it is the shit that would keep anybody up at night if they were terrified by the idea of extraterrestrials. And it's literally like clockwork. 1,500 documents are released by the government, and somebody goes, all right, cue Corbell. He's back on, pushing this stuff. But I'm telling you guys, something happened recently that I just smiled and shook my head because I knew it. I knew it. Remember when the USS Omaha footage came out, the triangles, there's triangles flying in the air, and then they cut to this footage from an iPhone inside the US Omaha of, you don't even see who's talking. It's literally just footage over some screen that looks like it was developed in a Hollywood studio.
781 just sped up to 46 knots, 50 knots.
This morning, the sound of U.S. Navy sailors reacting to a radar screen tracking unidentified objects flying around their stealth ship.
Oh, actually 38 knots. Fast.
I mean, it looks like the most staged thing in the world. But the footage of the triangles, there's at least 2 or 3 different times where I said to you guys, go back and listen. I said, there is something off about this footage. There's something off about it that doesn't make sense to me. What I was referring to is it doesn't look like a swarm of triangles. It looks like there's one object and there's like a ghosting effect with the focus where you're seeing ghost images of the same thing that's flying. But I remember thinking, this appears to have like an FAA light on it. It's like a flashing light so it can be noticed. And I'm like, is that how they work with UFOs? They put FAA lights on? I mean, there's everything about it just seemed weird. But finally, I saw something online, and I was like, yes, that is absolutely factual what they're saying. And I'll tell you what that is. Now, remember, I told you guys, I'm not a director of photography. I'm a director. So basically, like I said, when it comes to any scene that I'm going to shoot, I will articulate to my director of photography what I want the feel to be, the lighting to look like, just what I want the shot to look like. And it is now his job through the use of cameras and through the use of lenses to basically set that stage for me. Once that stage is set, then I bring in the subject and we'll interview them or shoot whatever we're going to shoot with them. Jeremy Corbell, without question, by his own admittance, does everything. He has literally said, like, I shoot the shots. Like, he does everything on his own, which, hey, props to him. That's badass. Props to anybody who takes on multiple, positions in making a film. It is incredibly difficult to make a movie from start to finish. So if he's able to do this as a one-man show, props. But what this tells me is that he absolutely understands lenses. He absolutely understands how they work. He knows how to get the shots that he wants. When you watch his work, it's very obvious that he's a talented director of photography. To be completely honest, and I mean this as a compliment because we all have our strengths and weaknesses, he's a much better DP than he is a storyteller. But he compensates for that with beautiful visuals. It's just what his strength is. But it's important in regards to this UFO footage, the Omaha footage, okay? And this is why. What I was trying to point out and articulate, and admittedly I didn't know what it was that I was looking at, but I've heard the term before, and it's something called a bokeh, okay? Now, I came across this because I went online on YouTube and started looking to see who had attempted to debunk the Omaha footage. And as it always seems, man, if you want to know what's going on in footage, go on YouTube and go to the filmmakers. There's an incredible group of CGI artists, animators, called the Corridor Crew. I love them. I love their show. I love their talent. I love their personalities. They're incredibly smart guys. But they tackled this footage. They tackled this Omaha footage. And in a matter of seconds, they completely debunked this footage by showing that this triangle effect is nothing more than what is known as a bokeh. But let me show you right here the actual segment of their video that breaks this down. Check this out.
So what does it say? Is it a flying triangle alien?
Well, it seems to grow and shrink like an iris is adjusting or something like that. That's what I see. Okay, so this guy literally held his phone up to his night vision monocular, all right? And those little white specks are the sensor of this night vision camera, kind of fritzing out a little bit with noise. Okay, I see a bokeh. Bokehs, okay, so when you see something that's out of focus in the background, basically it's the shape of the iris of a lens. All the light is forced through the iris that's in front of your sensor. And whatever the shape of that iris is the shape your bokeh is going to be. Seems like this is maybe a triangular iris?
Three-bladed iris.
A three-bladed iris?
Now we're all used to circles because our lenses have circular apertures. And in fact, the more expensive the lens, the more blades on the aperture, so it becomes rounder and it doesn't have a hexagon stop sign shape. But the cheaper lenses have less aperture blades. And really cheap lenses, you only need 3 blades, Zoop, 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 zoop. It's cheap and it's easy. You're not worried about trying to make a nice bokeh in the background. You just need to open and close the aperture. And this is not a film camera that he's using. It's not a DSLR. This is a infrared camera. And so the lens on this camera is cheap. I think to me this video is clearly just an out of focus airplane. And all you need to do is look at the top of the flagpole in the right corner, or even the stars in the background, and you can see that they also take on a triangular shape.
Yeah, you're right. It's literally just the bokeh. Okay, so there's nothing special about this at all.
There's absolutely nothing special about this.
I could recreate this footage with basically zero effort. Take a night vision monocular and then I just put my phone into it. How is this even newsworthy?
Yeah, this is the thing that kind of makes me angry. It's this is so obviously just out of focus footage. This is going through newsrooms, and these are professionals that work with cameras, and you can immediately tell what's going on, and then they purposefully kind of cover it up so they can act like it's something interesting to talk about.
My friends, they couldn't be any more dead on. They are accurate. This is real. They got it. This thing that we're looking at, this quote triangle, is not a triangle. It is just an out of focused object. Now, could that be a helicopter? That would be my guess. Or some sort of plane some kind of Harrier or something that is able to move slow over the water. But if you look at both of these pieces of footage, the footage of the actual triangle and then the footage that were sold, the iPhone footage inside one of the most advanced military warships on planet Earth, in my opinion, both of these clips are completely staged. I don't buy either one of these. And what really bothers me about this is when it comes to this bokeh effect, I mean, I am not a director of photography. I am not a DP, and I knew there was something up with that. I knew this was a ghosting effect. I knew this was a focus issue. And like I said, I've heard the term bokeh effect many times, but I don't work as a DP, so it's not in my lexicon of words that I use all the time. But I'll tell you who would have absolutely known: Jeremy Corbell. Jeremy Corbell is an incredible director of photography. He understands lighting, camera, lenses, opticals, all that stuff. He's very good. There's no way that he would have looked at this and went, oh, that is a triangle-shaped UFO, and there's multiple triangle-shaped UFOs flying through the sky. I'm convinced of that, which makes me really kind of let down and bummed out, you know? I mean, it doesn't change anything in the sense that the best footage that's out there is already out there. It's people capturing it every day. Unfortunately, all of these clips that have been released from the government, at best, are sketchy. But there is a reason, again, there is a reason why the government keeps pushing this narrative. I mean, out of the blue, here comes 1,500 more documents. This was a decision made from the top. From the top. So, you know, it was not done because someone filed a Freedom of Information request. The government doesn't give a shit about those things. If something's classified and they don't want it out, it ain't coming out. So it came out for a reason. The government cued Corbell right away. Go, Jeremy. Tell everybody how scary this is. Lock up your wives. The aliens are getting pregnant. You know? And here comes the fear machine. But what this tells me is that something is coming very, very soon. Like I said, the last time I talked to Skyfall, he said they're setting the stage technologically. Keep an eye on the Webb telescope that they just launched. Keep an eye on the probe on Mars. The tech is out there, right? We've landed something on Mars that's looking everywhere. And now we have the Webb out there that supposedly can see all the way back to first light, which I don't even understand that. I can't even wrap my mind around that when they say it can see all the way back to the Big Bang. Does that even make sense to anybody? Look, when it comes to, like, you know, physics and all that, admittedly, I'm not a physicist. I think in color. You know, it's just, I'm an artist. I'm not a math guy, admittedly. So I can't even wrap my head around the tech of the Webb telescope. But I do know that the tech is now in place at any time for NASA or anybody else to step forward and say, ladies and gentlemen, we have discovered that there's life or alien forms on other planets. And then they'll cue Corbell and he'll go, lock up your wives. They're going to get you pregnant. Anyways, I'm telling you, Corbell, come on, man. Come on. You're one of us. You're a filmmaker, for fuck's sake. I would like to openly invite Jeremy to come on and discuss this because, man, I want him to be a good guy, man, and I'm hoping that he is. And look, I'm just like anybody else. I'm someone who has an opinion that's looking at this and trying to figure this all out in a rational, a way. So I have no, there's no part of me that wants to, just blanket discount someone and say, they're a fucking liar and all that. That doesn't help anybody. But man, I'm telling you, man, he would have known. He would have known that footage is BS. He would have known it. I knew it. He would have known specifically what was going on. He would have known that's a bokeh effect. He would have known that. And he's pushing it to us, man. He's pushing it to the world and saying it's real. But, he has an open invite to sit down with me anytime And nobody would like to be proven wrong more than me. We don't learn anything being right. So I would love to be wrong in this scenario. I would love to have him sit down and say, oh, here's what you don't know. And this is what, gives me the credibility that I believe I have. And if that's the case, like I said, the forum is open. I would love to, hear his thoughts. But I would say we have enough information on Corbell to say at the very least he's suspect, and we need to take everything he says with a grain of salt. But shouldn't we do that anyways, I guess? Shouldn't we all be trying to find out our own answers? I certainly think so. Having said that, much love, everybody. Again, the next podcast is going to be on Taylor Hawkins and that entire lifestyle and why this keeps happening. There's a lot packed into that podcast that I hope you guys listen to. And a lot of new stuff you haven't heard, really interesting stuff that I'm going to share from some other past relationships I have with people that have been lost to this insane world of addiction. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I will be back tomorrow with more. All the best.